What up, dudes? Today we're here to talk about everyone's favorite pliable pink fury and sentient hostess Snowball who eats people, Majin Buu. No, wait, that's not right. Kirby. Wait, Kirby? Honestly, it really kind of struck me as odd that I hadn't considered a 16-bit era game up to this point. I've been playing games for a long time now, and my content should really reflect that from time to time. Woof. So, Kirby. What the hell is Kirby? Do we actually know? Is he a confirmed cream puff man thing? I know he's an alien hero from the planet Popstar, but what is he? And what's up with pop culture's obsession with pink blobs that consume their prey whole? Ooh, I got it. He's the only character Nintendo will ever encourage to suck and blow.
Phrasing?
Kirby was created by Masahiro Sakurai, famed creator of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Brothers? I don't know, I kind of use them interchangeably. How do you say it? Let me know in the comments. Sakurai developed the Pink Wonder for HAL Laboratory. HAL is so closely associated with Nintendo, in many ways it's like a second-party developer. For the past 35 years, they've worked nearly exclusively on Nintendo titles and platforms. Kirby is front and center for one of the earliest formative gaming experiences of my life, Kirby Super Star for the Super Nintendo. I know some folks say SNES, and you know, I get it. It's quick and efficient, but it sounds wrong coming out of my mouth. I grew up saying Super Nintendo, and that shit is hard to break.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Super Nintendo Chalmers.
Also listen for the occasional Super NES in there, I'm sure we'll get one of those. In a day where side-scrolling action platformers came in every shape and size, Sakurai wanted to develop a game that was accessible for even the most casual gamer. Essentially, baby's first platformer. With this in mind, HAL Laboratory released Kirby's Dreamland in the spring of 1992 on the Nintendo Game Boy to fair reception. The series has mostly been scored by composer and later supervisor of the Super Smash series, Jun Ishikawa. He's been with this property since day one and always seems to understand the assignment. The music in Kirby Super Star is so much fun. It's catchy, upbeat, dour when it needs to be, and the green greens motif that floats throughout the soundtrack ties it all together and builds so nicely throughout the journey. Frankly, I don't know anything about music to wax poetic, so I'm not really qualified to talk about it through a more advanced lens, but it's a lot of fun and fitting for the package. Known for its saccharine aesthetic, it's seen as basic and a bit too easy compared to its contemporaries, games like the Super Mario Land series, Wario Land, Link's Awakening, etc. Pretty damn smooth for a Game Boy game though. The next year, Kirby's Adventure was released on the NES and introduced gamers to Kirby's signature power, the copy ability. With his ability to inhale enemies, Kirby can then copy their ability by digesting them instead of spitting them back out. While speaking for an interview, Sakurai bemused that the copy ability is what distinguishes Kirby's Adventure from the Dreamland title. By adding that, beginners would be able to enjoy simply inhaling and spitting out things, and advanced players would be able to use more hardcore abilities. With copy, Kirby can do things like spit fire, swing a giant hammer, suplex a motherfucker, swing around the yo-yo of death, charge plasma shots, get his link on, and dish out pain in dozens of other ways. There are also 3 special abilities, Mic, Cook, and Crash. They're all obtained by absorbing rare enemies and will give you the ability to shout into a mic as loud as you can, straight up cook every enemy on the screen, or create a massive explosion to obliterate any enemies or obstacles in your way. Kirby Super Star was sold as 8 games in one package. 6 games tied together by the same enemy inhaling, ability copying, freewheeling gameplay, and 2 minigames that break the mold for some quick, small scale yet incredibly intense action. The versatility and implementation of gameplay is the real star of the show here, and more on that in a bit. Another chief aspect of the game on display is an early form of drop-in, drop-out co-op gameplay. As long as Kirby has an ability, he can create a companion from it. They're palette swap versions of the enemies he absorbs and can be controlled by the PC or a second player. Well, you see, back in the day, long before video game consoles hooked up to the internet, we had this concept we now affectionately refer to as couch co-op, where you sat next to the person you were playing with. Crazy, right? It's crazy. In order to keep your partner healthy, you can pick up food and Maxim tomatoes along the way and share it with them in a way I can only describe as Kirby mama birding it right down their throats. Or another way that at the very least is an HR violation. I mean, for Kirby, this is technically work. He's probably like time and a half by now. According to Sakurai, the only request Nintendo legend Shigeru Miyamoto had for the game was to include 2-player co-op. Then they went and killed it. A friendly face is always just a push of the A button away. At the time, it felt like there were countless abilities and all sorts of powered mischief to get into. At one point, you enter a literal gallery of abilities that you can use for one of the game modes. Between this and Super Smash, Nintendo really owes Sakurai a debt of gratitude for the idea behind amiibos. Strictly speaking, on the idea of a trophy-esque collectible line of Nintendo's best and brightest, each up on their own pedestal, he's been on that wave for decades now. Again, the big draw to Kirby Super Star was the 8 games in one package sell. Each their own unique journey, and add an interesting twist to how you interact with the game. Variety is the name of the game here. Spring Breeze is really Kirby at its purest. It's an abridged version of Kirby's Dreamland. We get many of the same stages with few missions, and it's made easier by the copyability and the addition of a co-op partner. Along the way, you beat some mini-bosses, have a run-in with that jerk-ass Wispy Woods, disgruntled gumballs Lolo and La La La. You also get to fight a couple of poofy lightning boys and then face the punishing Puffin and self-proclaimed monarch of Dreamland himself, King DDD. The final battle honestly is a breeze as we rip through DDD like tissue paper. But we do get to move on to the next challenge. Dynablade. Dynablade, how cool is that fucking name? One peaceful day, Kirby is disturbed by the sight of a giant bird rip-roaring through Dreamland, so he decides to go see what the big fucking deal is. The game itself isn't too different from Spring Breeze, only slightly upping the challenge and giving new and lovely environments to peruse. Some more abilities are peppered into the rotation, and we get a better picture at some of the things that Kirby can do. At the end of every level, you get the chance to shoot Kirby out of a cannon as far as you can go. If you can reach the end, you'll get 3 extra lives for your troubles. This honestly kind of kills any challenge in the game because it's so easy to stack lives. It really just packs on a ton of lives. They're everywhere. I think I finished with like 22 of them. I guess it was their way of making sure that new and casual players didn't feel so overwhelmed and out of their depth so they could better explore the new abilities. They wanted to make them as varied and approachable as possible, so they have all sorts of things to do. The suplex ability in particular had a ton of different wrestling moves to pull off with pile drivers, body slams, and whatever the hell this is. His stone ability has some fun and quirky Easter eggs. Kirby transforms into several different forms, including an 8-ton weight, a Kirby statue, and a bodybuilder. When I played as a kid, I remember maybe once or twice seeing an extremely rare Mario statue form. When I was writing for this video, I thought back to it and thought maybe it was some kind of myth, maybe I imagined it happening, maybe it's like other pervasive game myths of my youth. Back in the day, the internet wasn't as comprehensive as it is now. You couldn't Google something on a smartphone on the fly to confirm or debunk whatever weird vomit came out of someone's gob, so unreliable word of mouth spread ridiculous notions like Yoshi being a super secret Pokemon in Red and Blue, or whether or not the infamous nude raider code existed. There was always someone's cousin from another school in another county who absolutely, positively, most definitely did it, so you're an idiot for not believing them. The 90s were a funny time. I am, however, glad to say that I was not imagining things. The Mario statue exists. It's really just super rare. Even rarer is a Samus statue. I only found it in my research for this video and my mind was fucking blown. I tried looking up the odds of each statue's appearance to no avail, but Mario is insanely rare and Samus even more so. I love that a game can show me new things 25 years down the line. The climax of the game leads to your duel with Dynablade, and seriously, her design is awesome. It's vibrant, full of life, and really just plain badass. She kinda looks like a rejected mythical bird Pokemon. Kirby knocks some sense into her and then go eats her babies as punishment for her transgressions. Nah, but really, he brings him to Wispy Woods for some food. He learned to keep his mouth shut after that beatdown he got in Spring Breeze. Isn't that right, Wispy? That would be so dark. Once again proving its sheer versatility, the next game in the package is the Gourmet Race. Someone in their infinite wisdom scattered food all over the damn place, and now Kirby and King DDD are gonna race about it. Because reasons? That's how you get ants. It's not exactly heavy on plot here. 3 races through obstacle courses where Kirby must collect more food than DDD and beat him to the finish line. You can do the races individually or in a Grand Prix format back to back. In the Grand Prix, it seems having the most food and best 2 out of 3 races will suffice for a win. The controls aren't really fine-tuned enough to fully exploit the possibilities in races with sudden dead stops and breakable walls, but with some time and innovative thinking, you'll find your way to victory in the Gourmet Race. I remember having quite a bit of trouble going through this one as a kid, but it felt rather effortless this time. The thing I remember most about Gourmet Races are the bouncy, ska-inspired tunes that play during each race. Probably explains a few things about some of my taste in music too. A good upbeat will always get me bouncing in my seat. Revenge of Meta Knight is about as close to edgy or gritty Kirby Super Star really gets. The industrial aesthetic, that swelling sense of dread in the opening notes of the song replaced by bouncy, dangerous, exciting music sets the tone as menacing Meta Knight sets his sights on Dreamland and his battleship Halberd. Roaring in on a shooting Warp Star, Kirby aims to stop him but runs into a few hitches along the way. The enemy presence is more dense, the setting feels more claustrophobic, and there are challenges around every corner. This is the only game on the cartridge with a timer, adding an extra layer of tension. There was actually a moment or two in my replays when I ran out of time on a stage, so pay attention to the clock. Kirby gets knocked about here and there. After the first stage, he gets blown away off the ship and back to the surface of Dreamland and has to fight his way back. The whole game kind of gives me Goku versus the Red Ribbon Army vibes. Rip roaring along on an impossible flying device, dodging explosions, kicking ass, and fighting strong guys. It always comes back to Dragon Ball. We see some interesting boss battles along the way, including some of the ship's systems, the main cannon, and the Mecha Tank Heavy Lobster. The systematic destruction of the Halberd throws the crew into disarray, and they abandon the ship one by one until Kirby goes toe-to-toe with Meta Knight himself in a sword duel. Getting his ass whooped, I guess he decides to go Scorched Earth and self-destruct the ship. One of the wheelie pals he rescued from a previous boss fight comes along, and it's time to escape. You sometimes bump every damn thing along the way, but it's all worth it for a kick-ass and scenic ending, having Kirby ride off into the sunset after a job well done. The music that plays during the credits of this section feels so oddly familiar, like something the Animals or the Doors would play. Soulful, kinda bluesy with sharp keyboards. Revenge of Meta Knight is a full tilt ride and a definite escalation in difficulty. The Great Cave Offensive probably provides the most creative challenge yet. Kirby must traverse a series of caves, castles, and mines to find 60 hidden artifacts scattered everywhere. Many of these treasures are Easter eggs and references to a slew of other Nintendo titles, including the Screw Attack from Metroid, the legendary Triforce, and, well, whatever the fuck Mr. Saturn really is. The goal here is exploration, and you'll have plenty of opportunities to poke around and find cool little areas to access. Looking back at it now, the scale is much smaller than it seemed to me as a kid. Everything seemed so vast and big, and the game seemed like such a challenge back then. This time around, I collected 56 of the artifacts in one go, and let me tell you, 8-year-old me would be so proud of that fact. Navigating these hollowed cave formations with friends was such immeasurable fun. Putting our heads together to figure out puzzles, pulling co-op moves to boost higher, and work around some of the game's hardest sections always made it such a good time. The boss presence in this one is unique, but a bit tepid. We've got lots of Ability Boy mini-bosses, as well as Big Willy the Cantankerous Whale, literal RPG bosses, and a chameleon. No, that's it, just a chameleon. The Big Willy fight is sort of interesting. He's a full-screen boss with a lot of movement, so there's a lot of fun to be had. There's also this Aztec-style rock creature who was clearly the inspiration behind the Master Hand in Super Smash. They even share many of the same attacks. All in all, the Great Cave Offensive is great for a bit of what I guess could be considered long-form Kirby Super Star. It's for sure the longest of the bunch and has some of the most rewarding replay value on the cartridge. Now, before I get into the last entries, I want to talk about an abandoned concept Sakurai and crew were throwing around. The tentative title was Kagero Mansion. This horror action title would have stuck Kirby in a haunted mansion. A curse prohibits Kirby from using his mouth to inhale, so copying abilities would have been lost to him. The only way to gain abilities is to interact with certain objects in the mansion. The example Sakurai used in the interview was touching a candle to gain fire. I just love the concept and really wish they had the time to execute it. It's a wonder they never revisited the franchise through the lens of horror. The fact that they were even considering adding something like that to the game is a testament to its versatility. Breaking it in some way or another and adding variation and challenge in a creative way that distinguishes what would have been. It's kind of the motif for the whole package. Then there are a couple games that completely break the mold. Megaton Punch is a minigame in which Kirby competes with a second player or PC to see who can punch with the most force. 3 meters determine how hard you punch through the board in front of you. Pressing the buttons at the right time will boost your power and improve your overall punch. I remember putting a lot of time into this game because the final PC contestant would often get perfect hits on all 3 meters and it was tough getting a rhythm at first. The next minigame, Samurai Kirby, may be one of the toughest challenges in the entire game. It sees Kirby go toe-to-toe with an opponent in a high noon style duel. In order to win, you have to wait for the on-screen flash and be the first person to hit a button. Timing, speed, and reflexes are the key to victory. If you and your opponent hit the button at the same time, you get a draw animation and it resets the duel. The PC duelists have designated time windows in which they'll attack, so as long as you strike before it hits their number, you'll breeze right through. My old man reflexes are so shot now that my times are just embarrassing. Back in the day, I could beat Meta Knight with reasonable effort. Now I come nowhere near close to measuring up to that. It's so reminiscent of Samurai flicks of old that it becomes endearing, even after you've lost to Meta Knight for the 100th time. Samurai Kirby is such a fun and interesting concept that it makes for a great time in short bursts. Here we are onto our last game, Milky Way Wishes, the climax of our journey. The sun and moon are fighting for supremacy of the skies over Dreamland, and Kirby is tasked by fellow Dreamlander Marks to summon the galactic comet Nova by accessing fountains across the stars. The caveat in this game is an interesting twist. Kirby has lost the ability to copy from enemies, so to gain abilities, he must find the ability trophies across the levels. Think of it like a big amiibo hunt to go kick some ass. Once the player finds one, it becomes permanent equipment and you can change your abilities on the fly. The levels are some of the most interesting in the game, with unique navigation puzzles and the challenge of finding Kirby's powers along the way. In fact, it has some of the most unique levels in the entire package. Upon further examination, many of the levels seem to call back to styles and aesthetics of the previous games, with big Great Cave Offensive vibes coming from the planet Aquilus and Hotbeat, and the industrial look of Meta Knight's ship making a reemergence for the Mechai level. Once Kirby visits the 7 fountains, it's time to summon Nova and make a wish. Kirby gets interrupted by that jerk-ass Marks and he steals the wish to control planet Popstar. With it and Nova now under his control, he sets out to wreak havoc on Dreamland and we get one of the most out-of-place levels in the entirety of Kirby Super Star. It's such a jarring but awesome and temporary switch up to literally everything about the game that it's severely out of place and frankly high-key awesome. After Nova, we head to our final challenge, a souped-up, all-powerful Marks. Seed bombs, energy arrows, mouth blasts, and mini black holes are Marks' weapons of choice, and he's a nimble little bastard. This giant galactic jester puts up more of a fight than most, but goes down just like the rest. His plans are thwarted, planet Popstar is safe, and Kirby can finally rest. But wait, there's more. The final challenge awaits. Choose your ability from a gallery of every regular ability in the game, grab a buddy, and enter the arena. The arena is Kirby Super Star's very own boss rush mode. Fight through every single boss in the game back to back and bookend Kirby Super Star in explosive fashion. Between rounds, you can recover with one of 5 limited Maxim tomatoes or choose a new ability to take into the next fight. With 19 battles to get through, you really gotta conserve that health and reach the end. If you're not careful, you can blow the whole thing, which I totally did when I decided I didn't need another tomato for that round. What's the worst that can happen? Death. Death can happen. I remember it being a pretty big challenge back in the day. Sometimes when you're 8 and flailing around with your friends, it takes a bit of time to apply some method to the madness. Complete this challenge and you have successfully run through the gamut of Kirby Super Star. It was super fun to be able to revisit the game and unlock some memories I forgot even existed. If it wasn't already obvious, I used the Switch Online Super Nintendo emulation to play through it this time, and it's one of the rare moments I wish I had the reproduced Switch NES controller, or an 8-bit though. It honestly felt a little weird to play with my Power A Switch controller. Maybe that's the muscle memory growing with me. Sure, there were better, more challenging games out there, but there really just is something undeniably charming about Kirby Super Star. The series really came into its own on the 16-bit Super NES. The range of color and improved visuals make it an absolute treat, and the controls hold up pretty damn well. To my 8-year-old brain, it was definitely more vast and in-depth than it actually was. But that doesn't matter. It's definitely more reflective of the kind of game I needed then, and I'll always be grateful for the time spent with Kirby Super Star and my friends. I'm also now curious to maybe pick up a copy of the 3DS remake to enjoy this game at its peak performance and get in on those new extras.